only that, but He promised that He'd never leave me nor forsake me. He would go with me to the end of the world. He'd help me with my taxes. He'd help me if I had a bump on my toe. If I had a fuss with my wife, He would be there and help me.
Amen.
This is when you begin to know the person of Jesus, when you can say that I may know Him in the power of His resurrection and have the fellowship of His suffering. You don't know nothing about Christ, and you're not in His presence unless you have begun to suffer for Him.
Preaching.
How many friends have left you yet
Yep.
because you're living a Christian life?
Right.
How many has mocked you? How many have you ever lost a job because you're a Christian?
Come on.
Have you lost any family members because you're a Christian? Have you lost any friends because you're a Christian?
Amen.
Have you lost sleep over somebody else because you're a Christian?
Amen.
That's when you're beginning to get in the presence of God, and you're beginning to know His way, and now you're beginning to know His person.
Yeah.
There's a difference than coming in this church on Sunday morning and Sunday night, and you sit here and you do this, and this is all you do. You just come in and basically you're a fixture that needs to be dusted off in our church.
Come on.
Listen, Christianity is alive. It's moving. It's growing. It's going. It's seeing people saved. It's seeing lives change. It's not just sitting here on this church pew every Sunday morning. Man, God begins to deal with me on stuff. My mean old wife, she'll say something to me and it'll make me so mad I could just bite nails in two and I ought to carry out and whoop her.
That's good preaching.
But instead of that, God begins to convict me.
Yep.
Boy, I have begged God to change her through the year. God, I don't like what I hate she's been mean, she's done this. And finally, I just had to start saying, God, if you ain't going to change her, then change me. God, if you ain't going to change, you got to change me. And you know what? The miraculous thing is He started changing me. And then, it wasn't long, she began to change. But do you think it's because I wrote Dear Abby? Or because I called Oprah Winfrey and asked her advice? No, it was because I got on my face. It was because I got on my knees and God, I said, I can't do this. God, I can't stay married. I'll be like the rest of these people. I'll be divorced and we'll be hating each other. My kids will live so. God, if you don't help me. But I've also said the same thing about pastoring. God, if you don't help me, I'm divorcing this church. They've been mean to me. They've talked about me. God, I can't do it. But I've also said the same thing about deer hunting, about fishing, about everything. God, if you don't help me, I can't do this. God, I got to know your person. How should I handle this? Yes. Do you know how to handle a situation? You get in the heat of the battle. You say, oh God, if you don't help me, I'm going to die right here. Or God, if you don't help me, my son or daughter ain't going to make it. God, you've got to show me what you're talking about. If I understand this thing right, Christianity is alive and it changes lives. You're not the same. Did He not say you're not the same creature you used to be? You're a new creature in Christ. Look, if the only song you know is the B-I-B-L-E, and the only verse you know is Jesus wept, and you've been saved 40 years,
Amen.
you need to get up and move right. You don't need to wait till I get through preaching. Amen. You need to be in these altars begging God to let you get in His presence. Because I can't change you. Have you ever seen these people? Them big muscles. I mean, like that. I could go sit next to them. These guys are pretty built up here. I could rub their muscles. I could, do like a crazy cat, just rub all over. And you know what? I would not gain one muscle. He's not feeling good. He's a little bit sick. And if I come over here and rubbed up on him, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to get his sickness. Now there's a difference. Sin is a sickness unto death.
Yes, sir.
But living and being strong and growing, you've got to do something. You can go look at a barbell all you want to. But you'll never get stronger by looking at it. You got to pick that thing up. Do you walk with God? I mean, the spiritual man looks just like our physical man. He said that you walk with God, you talk with God, you see God spiritually, you hear Him. It's just like the real man. So you got to work him out, you got to exercise him, you got to get him strong. Here's the problem. We've got some Christians that weigh 500 pounds. They know so much about the Bible, but they never give it out. And they become fat in the Lord. And then we got some Christians that's about as big as my pinky. They're anorexic. They never read, they never study, they never grow, they never go. God don't want you to be big, and He don't want you to be little. He wants you to be this. And you may not can be physically that way, skinny or big, either way, you know, forever before I ever gain weight. But spiritually, I don't care what your outside man looks like, you can be one lean, mean Christian machine. I mean, so when Satan comes to fight you, he hits you, but it's like it just bounces off. If you're not spiritually strong, he comes up and says something to you and it hurts your feelings, you get out of church 3 or 4 weeks. Slightest little thing comes along, you don't come back to church on Sunday night or Wednesday night. It's because you're not strong enough. You're getting beat up. I got to hurry. Now, the next thing Moses asked him. God, if you don't go with us, I ain't a-going. God, if you're not going to be right there with me, we might as well stay here in the desert and die, because I don't want to go to the promised land if you're not going to be there.
Amen.
Before I ever got married, and all you young people listen to me, I dated 8 long years. I dated women here, there. You know, it was awful. I went through them like a bowl of cereal. Just go out there, well, she got to go. This, she got to go. This, she got to go. This, she got to go. Here was my problem. I wanted God's will so much that I was willing that if He wasn't going to go with me in this marriage, I wasn't going. I knew too much was riding on this thing. I knew my kids, my grandkids, my great-great-grandkids, and on down the line. I had to know, was it God's will? Was it His way? God, are you going with me?
Amen.
But you know, I do this now about my sermons. I'm doing this every day. God, are you going with me today? If you ain't, I don't want to go. How long has it been since you've asked God, God, will you go with me? God, are you going? Are you there? Because listen, guys, if God ain't in it, it ain't nothing. You might as well stay at home. If God is not in it, it don't matter how big your bank account is.
Amen.
Don't matter how nice your home is. Don't matter where you look. You can work in a nasty, low down, no good for nothing place. I'm talking about a filthy place. But if God is there, oh, you can be as happy as a pig in sunshine.
That's right.
Or you can be sitting in an ivory tower. Nice, nice. And if God ain't in it, it could be a hellhole. So he said, God, I want to know your way. God, I want to know you personally. God, I want to know your presence. And if ain't none of them going to happen, then God, I ain't going. So much so, Moses pastored a little over 1 million people, they estimate. Biggest church ever known. Boy, it's rough just this many folks. I can't imagine 1 million people. But he knew they would die if he didn't get in the presence of God. He knew it. Daddy, your kid's going to die if you don't get in the presence of God. Yeah. Mama, your kids are going to die unless you get in the presence of God. Grandmama, granddaddy, same scenario. Aunts, uncles, you got to get in the presence of God or they're going to die. Now, God says, if you read it, he gave him 4 promises. He said, I'll make my goodness pass before you. I'll proclaim my name. I'll be gracious to who I'll be gracious, and I'll give mercy to who I'll give mercy. Now, 3 last points, and we're going to close. God is literally communing with Moses. He's talking to him. This is not a fairy tale.
Amen.
This really happened. Do you know over at Mount Sinai, over in the Middle East, there is a place that they claim where Moses stood in the cleft of the rock? A real place. History tells it. You can go over there and look. The mountain has been almost charred at the top because of the presence of God. Now, what Moses was wanting was the glory of God, to know the glory of God. And I've tried looking it up, and it's too hard to describe. One word can't describe God's glory.
Amen.
No way. It's just too much. But if you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. So, God tells Moses, there is a place by me. You're going to have to get close to God. If you don't feel close to God, get some move. Then the next thing was, you got to stand on the rock. Who's the rock? This rock is Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
And then the sweet, the precious, and probably the most confusing part of this whole story. Moses said, get by me, get on the rock, and when it's time, I'm going to put you in the cleft of the rock. If you don't know what the cleft is, it's basically a crack in a rock. I hope y'all seeing what I'm talking about. I have been closer to God when I've been in a crack than I was when I wasn't in trouble. Moses, I'm going to put you in the cleft of the rock. Do you know some of the troubles you're going through right now? Now, this is only if you've been trying to get in God's presence. You may be in trouble. Don't you blame it on God if you're not. Now, don't dare do it. But sometimes God puts us in places that's going to get us closer to Him than if you wasn't in. Here's the amazing part. In fact, y'all get ready. Come on. He put him in the cleft of the rock, and he said, Moses, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my hand over your face. Let's try to imagine this. Let's imagine Moses, he's here in the rock, in the cleft. And God's going to come by, and God's going to put his hand over Moses' face. And just as God gets past him, he's going to move his hand. Moses or you and I, nobody can see God in this fleshly body and live. You would die. He's too holy and we're too unholy. He's going to remove his hand, and as he gets by, he's going to see God's hinder part. Not physically, okay? Don't get your mind nasty thinking he's going to see the backside of God. But what he's going to see is God's glory. There's been so many times in life I've been in a trial and I thought, God, where are you?
Amen.
God, where are you? But it wasn't until after I got out of the trouble, been through the storm, and I look back and I say, oh God, that was you done that. You did this. And we saw the glory of God. He may have changed your circumstances. He may have moved it. Or he could have held you tight while you were in the storm. But you had this promise. He'd never leave you nor forsake you. He would be there. And all things work together for those who lay out and drink.
Nope. Nope.
All things work together for them that never read their Bible on a daily basis.
Nope.
It says all things work together for good of them that love the Lord, for those who are called according to His purpose.
Amen.
You know, I believe in once saved, always saved, but there's some stipulations on blessings and helpings. I don't care what you say. You got to do something in the Christian life. You got to have God's help.
Amen.
Because when He passed by. Now here's the great part. It's actually in chapter 34, the next chapter. When Moses goes back up on the mountain to get the Ten Commandments rewritten, he had a veil on his face. And when he's in God's presence, he lifts it up. And the glory of God is so bright that I guess he gets a good suntan, for lack of a better word. That when let me back that, he had the veil down. When he comes down off the mountain, he lifts the veil. And the people, Moses don't know this now. The people see his face and they say it radiates, it's bright. You know, when you get in the presence of God, everybody else is going to know it.
Amen.
You won't be patting yourself on the back, but you won't have to tell folks, hey, I got in the presence of God last night. You're going to brag about it. You won't have to brag about it. They'll know it. They will know that you've been there. Things began to change when Moses carried his little tent and got out away from everybody else. And he began to ask God, God, what's your way? God, what's your person? God, will you go with us? Will your presence be with us? And then he got on that rock. It's all about Jesus. If you don't get anything else out of my sermon today, it's all about Jesus and what He can and will do if you will just let Him do it and get close to Him. My welding teacher in high school used to whip me and other guys. Back then, when they had paddles, they'd have holes drilled in them. And Mr. Layfield could swing one more mean paddle. I was kind of wormy back then. So he'd pick me up and we'd be going in a circle like this. He'd just wear me out. But I learned with him and my daddy, if I could get closer, he couldn't swing as hard. You get closer to God and things are going to begin to
That's
change.
good. Amen. That's good.
I can't force you to do it, and God will not. It's up to you and Him. Will you get in His presence? Do you want your life changed, or you want it to be the same way it's been? Go through life like it's going, where you just feel like life ain't worth living? Will you get there and pray for your kids where their lives can change? Because listen to me, I'm closing with this point. There is no way we can get in the presence of God and your life not be changed and the people around you, their lives be changed. No way possible. God is that good. Will you stand this morning?
Page 368 at the bottom of the page. 368. What can one show?